we'll have that. Well, welcome everybody. Friday the 8th of July, 2022, and this is our Black History, our penultimate Black History conversation of season 6. So next week we're going to be inviting a range of guests along to wrap up what's been a really interesting journey over the last few weeks when we have followed the Windrush timetable. So it's great that we've got colleagues with us today, but especially pleased to see that June Elizabeth White-Smith Gully's with us again. So she's going to be telling us about some of the activities that she took part in during Windrush Week, Windrush Day in the week. And then we've also got Dr. Hilary Robertson-Hickling with us, and she's going to discuss with us the idea that Learning Links International's got to explore healing the trauma. So we'll make a start now. And because I'm in Australia, my name's Liz Millman from Learning Links International, and Simon Faringo from Belong Nottingham is doing the technical side of things. So I acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which I'm currently living, the Wurundjeri of the Kulin Nation, their elders past, present and future. This land belongs to the sovereign people of the First Nations. It was never ceded, it always was, and it always will be Aboriginal land. The photograph is of the Jiri Jiri dancers. This is a photograph taken off the television because they were part of the NAIDOC Week celebrations, and I'm delighted to say that next Sunday we've got a community festival here in the area that I live in, and the Jiri Jiri dancers are going to be doing a dance workshop for us. As it's the middle of winter and we'll be outside, they're going to do it with their hoodies and stuff. So that's great. And so it's NAIDOC Week, which is a special week to celebrate, recognise the importance of the first Australian cultures. So it's been lots on TV about it, and the theme is get up, stand up, show up. And with our new government, our new Prime Minister started off by saying that he will support the Uluru statement from the heart. This is very important. We've got truth-telling sessions going on and all sorts of things. Things have really moved on a pace here in Australia. The full recognition of all the peoples of Australia, not just those who came in and the descendants of colonialists, and the other folks have come in since then, but so that it's all people in Australia. So in season 7, we're going to have a special session all about this to get you up to speed on what's happening with the Indigenous communities around the world, and one of those is the communities here in Australia. Okay, so we also recognise the pain and trauma that so many communities around our world are suffering, and we wish to support the efforts that recognise the ongoing oppression of so many, as well as the natural and climate change disasters that are affecting many communities around the world. And I express my sympathy for the flood victims that we've got here in Australia. We have exceptional flooding in New South Wales, which is quite a distance north of me. But we also recognise, of course, that sadly the war in Ukraine is continuing, and there are many other conflicts and traumas. So we were asked to, by one of our participants, to look at this wider area and just to remember and recognise. Now, last week we had Hilary Brown, the CEO of Virgo Consultancy Limited. Hilary was an excellent speaker and presented her information. She's based in Barry in South Wales, but her legal practices extend through to London, to Brixton. And she's also been championing many cases of members of the Windrush generation as well as other people. Now, we're going to hop down to make a start on this part of our programme, but I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute. just welcome you all here. Bentley, we're glad to see you. Good, good. I know you've just been out for lunch, but you're back now. So Hilary, shall I just go through what we've got, what our ideas are for this project, and then you can reflect on them? Is that the easiest way of doing it?
Absolutely. Please go ahead, Liz.
Right, okay then. So there was an opportunity to apply for funding from the Welsh Government, and Learning Links International is based in Wales, and it was funding for Windrush events or activities or projects to be delivered by the 30th of September. And the application had to be in by the end of June. So it's been a bit of a tight jump around. Anyway, what we said we'd do, and this is actual wording off the application, is that we said we'd record a series of sessions on Zoom involving people with lived experience, along with volunteers and professionals who've been supporting people from the Windrush generations and their families in an online discussion to share experiences and expertise. Okay. So we worked out that we'll have 6 sessions. So when we finish season 6, which the last session is next week, and we'll be going ahead from the 22nd of July, and we'll be using the sessions to discuss how best to be able to support, if we can develop support, to recognise the trauma that so many people have experienced. So I've said that we've developed the approach based on the Black History conversations so that you all understand. And then we'll edit the recordings of a series of podcasts with additional downloadable resources and links. Now, recently, I say what we've been doing in Black History conversations, that's okay. Now we recognise the need to take the next steps to pilot a project that will enable us to explore the ways of providing information relating to supporting the mental and emotional issues, with basic information and signposting for those affected by the trauma of the Windrush scandal and the ongoing effects of racism. I also think we need to go right back when we're looking at this, because the whole circumstance of people relocating to Britain is traumatic in its own right. And as I'm much involved here in Australia with working on trauma issues, I can relate to some of these. So, as a well-respected professional who's been working on the impact of trauma, Jamaican academic and practitioner, Dr. Hilary Robertson-Hickling, who's with us today, has agreed to guide us through this pilot, sharing sessions with people who have the lived experience, along with volunteers and professionals who've been supporting people from the Windrush generation and their families in Wales, the wider UK and Jamaica. In discussion to share experiences and approaches that can help. We'll edit these discussions to create a series of podcasts that will be posted initially on the Black History Conversations website, and these will give an insight into the additional resources, and they'll be available to join or to work out later. So the Zoom, I'm going through this at quite a rapid pace of knots to really just give you the picture. So the idea is that we hold the Zoom workshops at the same time that we normally hold these sessions, but we will have a specific invitation list. So June Elizabeth, like I and others who've joined us over the last weeks, people that you think might be a good idea to invite, Hilary, people who you think might be a good idea to invite. It's all those possibilities. So then we'll start on the 22nd of July with 6 sessions. If we don't need 6 sessions, then we can do less, but we need to end, I think, by the 26th of August, then we'll have September to edit the sessions. However, the aim is now a bit ambitious, as we were only awarded 1,500, not the 4,500 we applied for. So the original aim was to establish, as I've said before, some sort of mental or emotional signposting hub for people to see where they may be able to get help, and what approaches people can take personally in recognising how to help themselves. And we'll be engaging with mental health support services. I've put in Wales in italics because I'd also be very happy to engage with people from mental health support services in the UK, anywhere in the UK, and to link with service providers from across Atlantic. So if you're interested to take part in this, please let me know. So having gone through all of that, it's quite ambitious, but Hilary, do you want to respond next, or do you want June to comment, or perhaps Ben?
Okay, let me continue to be happy that we are working together on this. I'm very interested in the idea of building bridges between places and people. And so this is very valuable for someone like myself who is now retired but doing all kinds of things. I think that there is a very interesting thing. We have almost virtual silence about Windrush in Jamaica. And this is something that had disturbed me 2 years ago when I realized it was time for the 70th anniversary to come. So I believe that there's some work that has to be done in Jamaica. No, I'm not sure how, but I am going to have to be thinking about some of the people. And I see that Mr. Crawford of the Institute of Jamaica is one of the people who has been involved.
Yeah.
And there needs to be something in Jamaica. So that's one issue. I think the trauma is very important, not only because it continues to affect people 3 generations later, but also because we have to find out how we can heal. And so that is then going to be a part of the work. The healing includes being able to talk about what has happened, but also to talk about how people have been resilient in the face of the difficulties. And so I'm happy we have our ambassador and advocate to speak. There is a concept which apparently is being used these days called about epigenetics. And that is the extent to which trauma can be transferred across generations, which I think we're going to have to get some more information about. How has the trauma been transferred across generations? So there is work to be done here. I think there are some concepts that we have to clarify. And I think that we have to continue to grow the number of people engaged in the discussion. I'm hoping that we will continue and expand our multi-generational perspective. So there are some of the people who were the actual Windrush people, although sadly many of them are now becoming ancestors. But there are their children and grandchildren who need to be engaged. Of course, one of the people that might be a very valuable person for you to get, maybe, I don't know if it's on this side or which side, is the person who did the monument in London. It turns out that I think he was born in London, and he has been representing he has just done some work on, he has done work on people in Jamaica, like Usain Bolt. He has done work on Dr. Martin Luther King in Atlanta. He has now done some work in London. And I believe he was born there, and he's part of a family of artists. His father was, his 2 siblings are, and these are people who have been dealing with the trauma in a way of celebrating and representing visually the work, the experience. And so his father, Barrington Watson, and then himself, and so on and so on. So he may be a good person for us to think about interviewing. I don't know what the people in England are saying. I saw something from Professor Gus John, whose work I have been following, in which he decided not to attend the event that is for the launch of this. And I want to say something right now. I think we have to decouple the royal family from these celebrations. That is generating a tremendous amount of conflict, dissonance, and a contradiction. the royal family cannot have both been a beneficiary of these historical processes and also be there to stand and smile and whatever. It is not right. And I think that's one of the things that the people in Britain have to address. How to acknowledge the role of the royal family and how to acknowledge the need for reparation. So that is a matter that is being thought about on both sides. But I think Gus John, and he wrote a very thoughtful and thought-provoking response as to why he did not attend. So if we can grapple with some of these things for this 6 parts thing, it would be very helpful because it would help to reposition our thinking about how we go ahead. Okay, let me stop there.
Thank you very much indeed. That's really, really very helpful indeed. Gus John also included me in that mailing as well, and I know Gus John quite well. I haven't invited him onto, well, I have in the past, but only loosely. But I haven't ever settled down a date. I think he will join us, and I think it would be really useful because he doesn't pull any punches in his response. So, okay, June Elizabeth, and then Bentley, I'll allow you an opportunity to also join in this conversation and give you a bit more explanation if you need it. But June Elizabeth first.
Well, good afternoon and good evening and good morning. And I agree with what Dr. Hillary said, every word. And that response from Gus John, I received it as well. In fact, I got it in the Windrush National Organisation WhatsApp chat, because I'd put a chat out asking, is anybody going to be at the unveiling? And then Bishop Jadu sent that letter. Now, that response is very good to be like a baseline so that we do reposition ourselves and not think of all the fairy lights, but think of the reality of what's really happened and what's happening. Now, as a Windrush advocate, I had left a message for Liz to say that I think somebody that I would like to invite would be Glenda Caesar. Yes, I don't know if anybody's heard of Glenda Caesar, but you can Google her. She was, very briefly, she was a victim, now survivor, now campaigner, and now my joint partner in working with review and appeal cases. And we've got a meeting a week on Thursday with the heads of managers of Home Office to discuss certain cases that, you know, needs to be highlighted. But I won't go into the works of working with the victims at this moment. I think that we need to really have a real good focus to make sure that we get the best out of the time that we've got, because it goes so quick. So when you started, Liz, and said, you know, if we could have a list of the people, we need to look at that list to make sure we've got a right balance.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll just close by saying that after leaving the police force, because they didn't recognise me out of uniform and assaulted my brother, which I won the 12 charges, I won the case, I returned back to nursing. And that's when I got a shock, when I met Mrs. Thatcher's community officer, and he told me that I was an alien and I was born in England. And that's when I realised from then that they can always change the goalpost when they need revenue. So they changed that full stop into a comma, and they added that if you were born here, and your parents were not citizens when you were born, and most of the people that they invited here were British subjects. So they know that all of us that were born here now, we've got to pay. But that was, they changed that after a week or so. But just that initial feeling that I'm an alien, even though I was born here, right? And where do I belong, right? So from then, I always thought I'm going to come and live with my granddad in Jamaica, even though as a nurse, I won't get so much money, but at least I won't be told I don't belong. You with me? It was a big shock. And that's what propelled me to become an advocate, because that was when all the elders, most of them like my mother's age, that were retiring, had to fill up their citizenship. And a lot of them had problems. They weren't articulate. So I travelled the breadth of England, north to east, every part of London, Bristol, anywhere where the Black community was, I travelled and filled up their application form. So from 1980, I've been on the go. And then when I saw what happened to us recently, I just realised it's not getting any better. So I do think that this trauma exercise and project, I think it might be a very useful tool for many people in the professional world and in many spheres of looking at Windrush survivors. And there's a domino effect, because even that affected me even to now, but because of my faith and the strong bonds I have with Jamaica and my family and friends, I'm able to help people like Glenda Caesar, who I started with, to say somebody like that, that's been all the way through. Before the Windrush scandal was exposed, Glenda Caesar had been fighting 12 years to become a British citizen. And she came here, show you a picture of her coming here as a baby in her parents' arms, coming off the plane. And she didn't realise, hopefully she'll tell you a story, she didn't realise until her mother had gone back to, I think it was Antigua, had gone back to the West Indies, and she wasn't well, and she tried to get a passport. They said she wasn't a citizen. She didn't have time to go through that. So she got a citizenship of the country that her parents came from. And when she came back and she continued with her work, she had a good job, she got a letter that they have to let her go because she's not a British citizen. So when she contacted the Home Office, they told her to look on page 8 of her passport, of the passport what she'd bought to go and see her mum, and it said, you have not got a work permit. And I realised then that they're really not very nice, you know, and it's no good being out of the system. I work through the Home Office. Some people say they can't be bothered, but unless we do something, it's only going to deteriorate. And I was at the Jamaican High Commission Windrush Compensation Scheme Zoom about 3 weeks ago, and I was appalled to find out how many people that are suffering. So this one lady said, where do I go? What do I do? And I thought, oh dear. And when I compare it to the Ukrainians, compare it to the Vietnamese people that I helped settle here, I realised that we're not treated fairly. So I just close there, because it does really, even as advocate, you got to know how to not let the transference affect you. Because I'm done 20 odd years as a health counsellor, and I can realise that it does affect you, but you have to be able to position yourself to be able to go on. So I think this would be quite a welcoming project.
Thanks very much indeed. Hilary, do you want to respond?
Okay, 2 things that, thank you very much, Elizabeth. The alien question, where do you belong? I said to a colleague recently, and you will have to hear my perspective. The Europeans claim the world. They can be citizens of South Africa and Holland and England at the same time. How is it that we are limited to one place? So that is an issue, the whole question about citizenship and belonging. Secondly, you know what came into my mind? My mother's older brother was a veteran of the Second World War. He was in the Royal Derby Regiment. And fast forward, his grandson is now living in Birmingham. And I was stunned. He grew up in Jamaica, etc. His grandson, who is now 24, and my uncle would have been in his 90s, is now dead. But do you know that when my cousin told me about the cost of becoming, I think he said it was £900 to get the equivalent of your residency. I don't know what it's called in England. In America, it would be a green card. And then he told me that if you applied for your citizenship, it cost £1,000 or more. So one of the barriers that is put into place is an incredible financial hardship on people many of whom are now retired or who are living on less than nothing. And let me conclude this question about the financial costs by being amazed, horrified at what the current British government has done in terms of the cost apparently of people who are, even those who they are inviting to come to be part of their brilliant mind scheme or whatever, which of course excludes people from Africa and the Caribbean and elsewhere. But the costs are phenomenal. And so, you know, this then is it so that one continues to create obstacles. Even when you're telling people that they need to apply, there's a red tape, there's a cost, there is the anguish. And yes, I saw the anguish in your face. And so a question I want to ask, once again, do you know Dr. Agri Burke, the psychiatrist?
Well,
Liz?
I know of him. I've met him a few times. We invited him many years ago to open a centre in Northampton because a lot of Black, especially of African Caribbean males, were being sectioned and put in prison and put in the mental hospitals. So we opened a centre in Northampton and we invited Mr. Burke to, you know, come and like open it for us. And I've been on some sessions where I've listened to him speaking. And he said something that, I thought, oh, he said, if Britain thinks that they can, if Britain thinks that they can, quickly, the Black people in England, that they can send them back to the country they come from. We haven't got enough room in Jamaica, he said. We can't take on the problems that the British has created for the Black people here, you know, and that always stayed with me, you know, and I've just done an immigration course, and one of the laws that have come out from the border force is that if you come over here, you know, some people come on a visitor's passport and they don't go back, it's a mandatory 4 years prison sentence. So that's going to push people underground. So somebody said, what about the people that have been here before the rule come out? So they said, well, they didn't really answer it as such, but that's pushing people more underground, you know. So it's a lot of things are happening that some people are not aware of it. They do a lot of, they put a lot of things through white paper while we're concentrating on Partygate and party this, and what's happening with the Windrush generation. They get sidelined, and it's really, you know, even though you try to be friendly, because if you're going to help somebody, it's no good not being polite and being the way that you are, to make sure that the situation can be changed. But I've tried a lot. I sit on the lots of boards within the Home Office to change even like the application forms. And I said to them, I said to the head of Home Office, we had a meeting, and he said to me, can I be honest with you, June Elizabeth? He said, you know, when I got that email from you yesterday, I felt hurt. And I let him finish speaking. And I said, well, Nigel Hills, I said, if you felt hurt and I'm the middleman sending it to you from the Windrush generation, you can imagine how much more hurt the Windrush generation are feeling, you know. But there's not a lot of us to have that opportunity to be able to speak to the heads of Home Office, you know. And even when you do, there's so much, as you said, Dr. Hilary, red tape. And when you get over that, there's lots of gates that I've got locks on that will never get through. I don't want to be a pessimist because I'm an optimist, but I'm a realist as well, you know. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Okay, well, back to you, Liz. As I said, you will have, if we're looking at 6 sessions, which I think we should do, and do the podcast and go through with that and see what are the gaps. So we want to ensure that we have cross-generational experiences. We want to also look at how some people are addressing the trauma in that short 6-week period. Yes, and I will soon have to go because I have to take somebody down to school, as I said, and we can talk otherwise. So
Okay.
this is what I want to say.
Right, so you need to get on your way now, don't you?
Yeah.
So that's fine, because we'll carry on recording this, and then Simon will post it so we can have a look. You can have a look and see what our conversation
continues. Yes.
Yeah, just before you go, sorry, just before you go, Dr. Hilary, 3 weeks ago, Glenda Caesar went to the Home Office. She was invited by the Windrush Select Committee with Diane Abbott, and Miss Mackenzie, the lawyer. Yeah, and she had the opportunity to question the caseworkers. You know, what about the mental health of the clients that you're dealing with? So I think it'd be nice when she comes for her to tell you that, you know, they couldn't really answer how they're not trained, you know, so they're creating more trauma.
Right, okay, that's really helpful. And Hilary, I'm just wondering, here we're doing truth telling in Victoria with our first Australians. This, in a way, I think is kind of truth telling, because what seems to me is that with the Windrush activities, and particularly the way that Wales words application for Windrush, you can only have funding for Windrush Day if you're going to be positive and you're going to celebrate people's achievements. They don't want to know about the problems. But perhaps in the whole thing of trauma, the fact that we've been able to celebrate people's resilience and achievement and everything else for the last few years has been really good. So I'm going to let you go now, Hilary, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Please have a good day, evening, night, or whichever place in the world you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, walk good.
Bye-bye.
One love. Lovely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so Ben, you came in right at the the beginning of our conversation here, so you haven't really had a chance to sort of ground yourself in what we're on about. What we're doing is we recognise we've got some funding. Did you see that bit?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we're interested because we've been following the story of Windrush now for about 6 or 8 weeks, I think. To try and find out about the history of it and all the different aspects. And we've had lots of people join us on on Friday afternoons to talk about what they're doing. And in a moment, June Elizabeth's going to tell us about the things that she did. So we've got some photographs to show. But this funding is about trauma and how we might work with Dr. Hilary Robertson Hickling on this. Now, Ben, I don't know if you knew Professor Fred Hickling. Ben, did you know him? He's a psychiatrist, a psychologist who was working in Birmingham for a long time. No, doesn't look like it. You there, Ben? Ben seems to have frozen up at the moment. It's all very strange. Right, fine. Okay, so June Elizabeth, shall we go into Simon? Can you keep an eye then and see when Ben comes back? All right, he's gone and he'll come back again. We'll just start the go through your presentation. David Lee, are you okay? Yeah, he's just listening in, I think. Right,
yes,
okay.
sorry about that. When you tried to introduce me earlier, I realised I had my headphones plugged into the microphone socket by mistake. So yes, I'm okay, and I'm listening intently to all that's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much indeed then. Okay, right, so I'm just going to find the right, let me just make sure I've got the PowerPoint in the right place to make a start on this again then. Right, so this is the next section of what we're about here, and that is to hear about activities that took place during Windrush week. So what I did to start off with was to take this photograph from the BBC News, which shows the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, accompanied by Baroness Floella Benjamin, Windrush passengers Alfred Gardner and John Richards, and children at the unveiling of the National Windrush Monument at Waterloo Station. I did hear earlier when Hilary said we really do need to separate the royal family with their history as an involvement in the all the different East India Company and other activities during those years of enslavement and colonisation. We do need to decouple. That was the term that that she used. So that's interesting. Okay, then. So now we've got June Elizabeth White Smith Gully, who is a Windrush ambassador advocate. And this is a roundup of some of the many Windrush Day recognition events and celebrations in 2022. So what are you doing here on this boat going down the Thames?
What had happened, we have already observed most of the people on this, what do you call it, cruise, were at the South Bank, which is not far from Waterloo.
Yeah.
And you just showed a picture of the BBC picture of the Windrush event, of the unveiling of the statue. Well, when I left Waterloo, I went and met these ladies that I'm sitting with. They are some of the Nurses Association of Jamaica,
Right.
London branch, UK, London branch. Got a Birmingham branch as well, but the Nurses Association of Jamaica in Jamaica are like a political branch, but we're a social branch that supports people in England and abroad, making sure their nursing is on a standard, or go and support, as well as charity work. Like one of the ladies that I'm sitting next to, you see me, I'm just behind the lady in white, yeah. Well, the lady I'm sitting next to, she's the secretary of the Nurses Association of Jamaica. Her name is Pearline Simmons, but they call her June. Because some black countries, they've got a pet name. So, you know, we don't get muddled up because they call me June Elizabeth. And the lady in front in white, she's our public relation officer. And she's also the former president of the association, but she's the president of the new Caribbean Nurses and Midwife Association. So that's why I'm sitting with them. So we left from the South Bank and we boarded a cruise to Tilbury.
Fantastic. All right. So did you enjoy yourself in Tilbury?
Well, a little story. We were all looking forward to our packed lunch. So we didn't get that till about 2:30 once we got on board. I had shared my lunch with some people who were a bit hungry before, because I came on the 6 o'clock coach. So my husband had packed me up. So that'll hold you till we get our packed lunch. When we got on board, they brought us a box of water each, and they brought us a packed lunch. It was rice and peas and chicken and coleslaw, but it was freezing out of the fridge, and they said it's salad. well, you can imagine some of them said, why this thing cold? They can't warm it up. But when you think of how many people was on the cruise, so I've never kind of worked out who done the catering, but they must have thought, well, let's give them rice and peas and chicken and coleslaw. They said it's a salad. I didn't bother to open mine. I didn't bother to open, even though I was hungry, because that would give me a tummy ache. But it was a lovely cruise. It didn't take too long. And when we got to Tilbury, I didn't send you a picture of it, but one day I'll do like a little, put some more pictures together. When you get, if anybody's never been to Tilbury, when you get to Tilbury and you go over the bridge, they've made it with some glass, like, and they've put pictures, all the people that were on the Windrush, most of the people in the glass. It's so nostalgic. And they've got like signs like Brixton, certain road signs where a lot of Black people lived in many rooms. So as I came along, I was videoing, it really got me. And then I could hear this steel band. And when you come off, there was some school children waiting, playing the steel band music for us. So it was very, very nice. Yes.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you can see this next picture.
Yes, I can. Yes, that's right. you at Tilbury.
Me and Yasser Safari, and I can't find the pictures, and I meant to put them on for you, June, because Yasser and I went to Tilbury in 2019, and we saw the exhibition there, so that was fantastic. So really lovely. So that's a couple of years back, and there's a super. Were you able to go around the exhibition at Tilbury?
Yes.
It was very moving. Yes. Right, next one of yours then, June.
Well, I believe the flag is, I believe that is Luton.
Right, okay, right. Yes.
I believe it is. It might not be, but I recognise somebody there. And then the next one is me and this gentleman who they had dressed up like how the people came, Yeah. So they were calling me on the cruise. I said I got to take a picture with him.
Okay, so that was a good time out. So you went to Waterloo and you also went there. So it's been a bit difficult to manage the sharing of photographs between the two of us, but I'm ever so grateful that you put all these together.
Okay. My friend Jean Prescott, she was one of the 41 national Windrush community ambassadors that Priti Patel had engaged after the scandal 2020 for a few months to promote the Windrush scheme and the Windrush compensation scheme. So I'm supporting someone in Coventry at the moment, and she sent an invite to this celebration, which was at the cathedral, Coventry Cathedral, the Sunday before Windrush.
Right, okay.
Windrush, I think it was the Sunday before or after Windrush. Obviously I couldn't go, but she sent it and I thought it was, and she reported back on it and she said it was very well attended and it was a nice service.
Right. Now, I'm afraid this goes back a bit because this is a photograph that you took at the Windrush Memorial. It just looks amazing.
Yes. So you, as you can see, there's a lady and her daughter, and the husband's round the other side. I've got one that I can send you, and it's a video, so they turn around.
Right. Okay.
From Jamaica this morning. I got I don't know if I sent it to you, a poet from London, a Jamaican lady who is in Jamaica at the moment, but she lives in London. She sent me a poem about the Windrush statue monument. And if I haven't sent it to you, I will send it to you. And
Okay.
she also, I commissioned her to write a poem for Windrush Day, which she did write. And it was read in Northampton. And I think it was read at Preston.
Right.
For
Okay.
Windrush Day. And the comment they made from Jamaica about the statue, they said it would be nice if the little girl was in the middle.
Yes. Ah.
But, you know.
Right. Okay. Then, and then you also in Northampton, you had a Windrush service at the New Testament Church of God, and
Yes.
also a flag raising at the Guildhall.
Yes. So I started organising the flag raising from last year, because last year was the first time we had a flag raising, and
Right.
I was instrumental in getting the flag. And Morsi Walker from Black History, she bought the flag, because if we had to wait for the red tape of the government council, it wouldn't have taken place, because the council had just changed, and they were discussing, well, we can't say anything because the town council said the flagpole belongs to the West Northants Council, and they just were trying to sort themselves out. I said, listen, I've got this flag from Bradford, and if you can't organise us putting it on, I'll get somebody with a long ladder. And then I also got the BBC Look East reporter. And so last year, I didn't send you the picture from last year, it was on the television, just a quick bit, but it was on the television, is well publicised. And they wrote to me and thanked me for my effort. And they said, next year, they're going to make it bigger and better. So that's how come, you know.
Well, we have to build this. We've been at Windrush Day for a few years now, haven't we? And we've got to learn.
But not in Northampton.
Oh, right.
Northampton Council never took it on. I had to force them last year, and now they've taken it on. In fact, they bought a lot of flags for all different parts of Northampton. So that's good, isn't it? Yeah.
June Elizabeth, tell me what it says round the ship. I'm just trying to read it here, and I can't. I've got standing on.
We're standing on the shoulders of the Windrush generation.
We are standing on the shoulders of the Windrush generation.
Yes, yes.
Right, fabulous. I've not actually seen one, of course. Got them over here. Okay, right. And the next one is a really attractive picture of you standing by the mayor of.
Well, that was our Northampton mayoress. She was leaving office, but that was on Walter Tull. Was it Walter Tull Day? Yeah, Walter Tull Day. That was earlier in the year. So last year, she was the mayor that we put the first flag up, and she was the first mayor for the town council as well. And she's from Bangladesh.
Right, wonderful.
I knew her when she was at school, yes.
That's lovely.
And then what you've got there on the right is Hackney Town Hall, which we'll come to that later, because they had two statues outside there. They had two statues in Hackney, which my partner, Glenda Caesar, was invited to. And so she sent it to me and I forwarded it to you.
Right, okay, thank you very much then. And then the final one from the collection that you sent is well, no, you didn't send me this. This came from another source, and this was in Wales, that Caribbean Heritage Cymru, which is a relatively new group, we're celebrating the National Windrush Day
Lovely.
2022, and that's so that you know what they were up to. So it's good that was in Newport. So that was really
Yes.
lovely.
Yes.
Right. So thank you ever so much, June Elizabeth. And now we're just going to, if we've got
You're welcome.
lost my place here. Oh, doesn't look as if
Before you move on, can I just make a couple of comments on that? Just
of course, David, thank you.
on the photo of you at the Windrush exhibition at Tilbury, I mean, I think Roxanne and I went to that exhibition and it was very, very good. My understanding, though, was that that was just a temporary exhibition, because when Bill Hearn went to Tilbury, you know, sometime after that, I know he was very, very disappointed with the lack of any kind of representation of the Windrush at Tilbury. So I was going to ask June Elizabeth if there was an exhibition when she went to Tilbury this year. Was that kind of impressive exhibition there or not?
There was an exhibition, but I was disappointed. It wasn't what I would expect. I could give a exhibition of my own that was more than that, but it was very sparse. But you had a couple of organisations that wanted you to sign up to give oral history and get involved. I took their details, but I didn't want to overload you, Liz. But okay. I do think that Tilbury needs docking up. You know, they need some more things to put there to really give it what it deserves.
Yeah, I agree with that. Generally, on most days, there isn't very much at Tilbury at all that's worth seeing, to be honest.
Yes.
The only other comment I wanted to make was, for understandable reasons, you know, you're talking a lot about Jamaica. You know, this whole project is talking about Jamaica, but I assume that you're just talking. The project's going to cover people who have suffered trauma, you know, regardless of where they came, their parents or they came from originally, not simply Jamaica. Obviously, Jamaica is reasonably the focus of it, but there are others. Is that going to be covered?
Yeah, it's far broader, because in Wales particularly, and they're giving us the funding, the community there is from a whole range of Caribbean islands, and there are also other people as well. Because this is specifically Windrush directed funding, there will be a kind of a link to the Caribbean and Jamaican community, but it certainly doesn't, you know, it's not the be all and end all. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Like Linda Caesar, she's not Jamaican, you know.
Right.
Yeah, the lady that I work with, you know, the victim and survivor and campaigner, she's not of Jamaican heritage.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. This might interest you. I found the photographs going back to when Yessus and I went to Tilbury. Can you see that Tilbury Ferry?
Yeah.
Can you see? Yeah. Okay. Let's just see how these look. We landed on the other side from where the Windrush would have docked. We arrived at the other side in Tilbury, I think, and we had to go on a ferry across to where the Windrush would have docked. So it was interesting to see the size of ships that are also there. And this is us going across on a ferry. I've not edited these at all, so you're going to have to put up with what comes across. All right, lots of pictures of Yassus because he just arrived in the UK. He'd actually flown in that day, and I'm taking him to Tilbury. But it's because we were down in that area of the country. That's how it looks. Now, this is interesting. Tilbury and Chadwell Memories. So they'd collected records as well. So I assumed that they were going to carry on. And there was this Empire Windrush triptych by the Kite Spirit Textile Group. So you'll see that in a minute. That's how it was imagined by the group. And we've got all the words there, but sorry, we used all kinds of things. And this was another of the elements there, a beautifully produced, it's fabric sewn, which was really, really impressive. I love that, with the references back to the Caribbean. Okay, so then there were these wonderful exhibitions from grips that that represented different people who'd come on the Windrush. Was any of this there this time, June Elizabeth? Possibly not. Right, okay, so I'll keep going. So they were fascinating, with the sort of clothes that they were wearing and everything else. Then
So
there was,
you just Mona Baptiste was in that last picture.
oh right, let me just go back.
Yeah, she's
Oh
what
yes,
the frame.
that jazz singer. Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So a grip specifically recognizing her.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Just go back one. I don't. Yes, that's hers as well. Yes, I must have made an effort to, and some stories there. So those were demonstrated. Then there was this plaque of Thurrock heritage, which recognised it. And here we are back with that, so you could see how it was. As I say, these aren't edited. These are just as they come off my camera. Back to Mona Baptiste. I was really obviously fascinated by that one. Yes, because it's a wonderful story. Oh, right. Okay. We've got Macarpi Selassie joining us. Welcome, Macarpi.
Yeah. I did
this-
see something like that with Mona on it, so maybe they've got something like that, but there wasn't a lot there.
And then they've got these different, this was the triptych, I think they were talking about.
Right.
More about it there, and then the techniques of how it had been put together. And then this somehow was another element to it. Don't ask me what. Here we are looking at this little exhibit. So though all those grips were below that, I mean, it certainly wasn't anything, you know, significantly much. But it was fascinating. And then they've got this big, was that there, the big painting?
Yes.
Yeah, so there was a big painting.
Mm.
And then some more artwork.
Mm.
Oh, these were all fabric panels. Oh, and it was obviously an exhibition for the Windrush 70.
Yeah.
So when we were there in 2019, so I've been there a couple of years. And then you know, the famous Clapham South, and they'd got work done there. And then, yeah, there was that's a triptych, isn't it? The three pieces that were done with all the different, and this is the hall now where they use it as like a conference hall, and that's where the London
Yeah.
International Cruise Terminal, so that's where these big ships come in, and there are a whole lot of people waiting to be the guides to welcome this big cruise ship you saw in the picture that was coming in. Right, back to those, more of those. This goes on a bit. Oh, and this is the Tilbury passenger landing stage, as it would have been in back in the day when the Windrush would have landed there. And then they've got various other bits and pieces. I'm sure what that is, all to do with it. There's a triptych again. Yeah, so it was
I think that's a different exhibition from the one Roxanne and I saw. I think we must have gone on the 70th anniversary when they did a big thing over a weekend, because there were some very informative display panels with sort of stories, and they also had lots of press cuttings from the time of the Windrush landing. Doesn't look, looks like you saw something different.
Yeah, that was all that we saw when we went in 2019. So it's worth checking that out, isn't it? Gosh, thank you, David. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, there is a sort of, Roxanne was actually interviewed by a guy who had played a big part in putting that exhibition on. I wish I could remember his name, because there is a kind of a local history society, I think, who've got who played a big part in putting on the Windrush 70 exhibition. I can try and see if I can dig out his name. It'll take a while, but I'll see if I can find it, because he would be a useful contact.
Yes, that would be really useful. So thank you very much indeed. Just check. Right, okay. Right, so June Elizabeth, that's really kind to you know, to have sent those photos and help us to focus. Macarpi, are you around there? Makapi is joining us from Tanzania. Makapi, are you there? Can you unmute? Not hearing you.
Yes, Liz, I'm around here.
Makapi, I'm really struggling to hear you. It's really bad reception today. Miraculous I can hear you at all from
Can you
Australia.
hear me?
Very, very poorly, Makapi, very poorly.
Yeah, it's not a good connection.
Oh, that's
What can I
better.
say? Going to the Antipodes. Oh, maybe hold on a minute. If I take out my earphones.
Yeah, that's
look,
fine. I can hear you fine now.
let me try that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I took my earphones out. I had my earphones in. Yeah.
Okay, right. Well, we can just take a moment now, Makapi. Tell me first of all what you'd like to contribute to this session. We're quite small and select today.
Okay. Well, okay. I interviewed two more of my relatives, cousins, on the Left Behinders.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I think I see a theme coming up here with the females. The females were kind of, how they put it over, they felt that well, they didn't have a childhood because
Just before you
the elder ones, looking at, sorry.
Just before you start, I just want to
Yeah.
introduce you, and then we can cut this clip as a clip. Okay, so
Okay.
Makapi Selassie, I'd like to introduce you, welcome you along. Now I know you've been interviewing some of your relatives, because your family, I think, is a 4 or 5 generation Windrush family, if we can use that term. And you've been looking at hearing the stories of some of those who were left behind. So tell us about this then, Makapi.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this strung, I interviewed 2 of my relatives. Both of them are cousins. One aged 67, I think, and the other 63. Anyway, both female, and they came over in the 60s, and I see a theme arising, actually, like a gender thing that happened. Like the females were telling me about being brought up in Jamaica, that they had chose to do early in the morning. Actually, actually I interviewed 3, a niece as well, all female. They had to get up early in the morning, go to get water in the dark, in the bush, frightening, you know what I mean? 6 years old, going to get water and carry water for miles, come back, fire, make the fire and so on and so forth, then get ready to go to school, rushing to go to school because you couldn't get to school late. If you had to line up with school and be inspected, so you had to be clean and pristine. School. When I asked what happened if you were, if you weren't, then you'd be reported to your parents, like what's happening, you know what I mean, as your son or daughter coming to school, you know what I mean, dirty, you know what I mean, so step up your game. At home, then they had to go back home, do those chores, cook for the younger ones, look after the younger ones, do their homework, bed, same routine in the morning. Many of them didn't know their mother or couldn't remember their parents. So, for example, leaving at 2 years old, couldn't remember mom. Another one is about the same. The other one left at 7, mom left at 7. When they came over, like 10, 11. One cousin said she was so excited to get over. And then when they reached the airport, no one there to meet them, right? And so they were taken into a room crying. And then their parents came, they got the dates mixed up. So they went the week before in a taxi from Birmingham down to Heathrow, and then they realized the right date, and then they came again, got them, took them home. She said all the way up the motorway, she hugged her mum, you know what I mean? And then when she got to Birmingham later on, she said she can remember sitting around the table thinking, are these really my parents? You know what I mean? Surely there'd been a mistake. You know what I mean? So she said she didn't know about her younger siblings. So there were two younger ones. And they weren't told about them when they were in Jamaica when they came over. Oh, two children, siblings, and they had to look after them. Everyone I asked, do you think there was a difference between English, in inverted commas, ones were brought up, and yourself, you know, that relationship to the parents? And they all said yes, 100%. They felt that they were brought over. One said I was brought over to be mother. You know what I mean? So, you know, once they came over, they did the cooking, and it's like mom then took a, you know, kind of backseat and let them get on with it. The relationship with their parents, they said that their parents didn't really show them love and affection. So I said, do you think that affected your relationships? And the conclusion was yes, in many ways, they gave their children the love that they felt they didn't have. So for one example that was given was, you know, like when you're at school and you have school outings and school trips and you get that slip of paper to take home. One of my cousins said she took it home and her mother just said, put it over there. I haven't got the money to go to make you go. You know, she said that her husband, actually, he stated that he felt like an orphan. So at the school that he went to, when he brought his slip home, they wouldn't pay, but the school actually paid for him to go on these trips, and he felt like an orphan. So this particular cousin, she said she's got a daughter, and she made sure that every school outing or she made sure that she had the money for her to go. So, for example, to go skiing in, I think it was Switzerland, she paid for that. She said that her relationship with her daughter, she said they're like friends in a way. And even then they make up quickly, you know what I mean? You know, she said we don't fight or anything like that. Whereas her relationship is, how can I put it, on and off. You know, she said, interestingly, that her mum would stop talking to her, then talk to her. But in her older days, her mother would depend on her, not the English ones. The English ones would tell mum, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm not coming." You know what I mean? You can get your own shopping or whatever. But she said she would go and do it. So I think when I actually write this up, I'll have certain headings. One of the headings was lessons of forgiveness, because one of my niece, she said that she had to forgive her parents for the way that they treated her, because she said they were vicious and strict, right? And she said if she had, she could very well have taken the attitude, you know, I've got nothing, but she said that, you know, she forgave them. So in their old age, she looked after them, and she's still looking after her stepfather, actually. So yeah,
Wow.
that's basically it. Yeah.
Well, Harpy, it's really interesting because these stories that you're collecting and interviewing, we've now got some funding. I was just showing the others. I'll just find for you. I don't know if you can you see the screen, McCarthy?
I can, yeah. I saw some map.
Let me no, well, that wasn't what you were supposed to be seeing.
Yeah.
This is what you were supposed to
Old Chatham. Okay.
right. Right, back to the screen share again then. Okay, it's a project that we've got a little bit of funding for, and the contribution from another project that we've got funding to support you to do this research. This is going to be supporting ways to bring healing to trauma. And we're wondering, we were talking with Dr. Hilary Robertson Hickling. Do you remember doing the training with her and Fred in Birmingham?
I do, yes, I do.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to pick that up again, but we haven't got all the funding we needed to really do the project that we proposed. So now we're going to bring some people together who want to look further into the stories of both how people have managed to deal with the trauma. And what was so interesting and what you just said was about forgiveness. I mean, just amazing that, you know, people who were treated badly and must have been traumatized as young people, how they managed to cope with that. And from my point of view in talking to people, I've been hearing, I've recognised that over the last few years when there's been Windrush celebrations and activities, one of the things has been to recognise the experience and to validate it, which is really important. But when it comes to the sort of issues and challenges that that people haven't been perhaps been given that opportunity to even begin to work through this. So we've got June Elizabeth with us, and she's been talking about this with other colleagues and others, you know, and we've got David Gleave as well with us today, who've done so much work, and with your wife Roxanne, you've done all sorts of activities, and with Bill and the book that you've just put out about Mona. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so tired, I can't speak.
Baptiste.
Mona Baptiste.
Yeah, David, I got my book. It came last Saturday. I told Bill. So when I meet up with you, I shall hopefully get you to sign it.
That's fantastic. Well, I haven't got round to ordering my copy yet, David, but I will do. Okay, so the McCarthy, that was really fascinating. Thank you very much indeed. And, you know, just make sure you're getting all these stories written up in a way that they're shareable and won't embarrass or identify anybody. Because these are some of the stories that don't tend to get told on Windrush Day. Would you say, June Elizabeth?
Agree, and it's what Mugabe's just spoken about. They had a series on the radio, and I just managed to get the end part, and it was the Caribbean born talking about their siblings and the way they were treated different, and the ones who were born here were treated more favorably.
It's exactly what McCarthy's saying.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So, and I can understand, as I said to you, I went to Jamaica when I was 6, only for a year and a half. But when I was 6, I was milking the cow, tying up the goat, sweeping, doing this, carrying water, because I lived in the country, and I'm glad I did, because it made me who I am. And that was before I went to school. And then we had to walk 3 miles to school. And was Mugabe saying that when they went to school, they had to have an inspection? Well, what I found, Mugabe, was that when I went to school, it was a lot of rock stones. The road wasn't very like how it is now. And coming from England, and yet they had their shoes. Some of them carried their shoes. And when I asked them, why don't you put your shoes on? When they go to school, there's like a place, it's round, where you put your foot in and you wash your feet. And then they put their shoes on. So they didn't want it to get.
I've heard that story as
But they
well.
wanted to save their shoes, but they
Yeah.
had to wash their feet when they went to school, and there was something there provided for them to wash their feet in, you know.
Yeah.
And when they said they got told off by their parents, at the school I went, you'd get the cane if you was not well presented, because it was an old English system, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the cane the only time in my life in Jamaica because I forgot to bring my reading book to school. Oh dear! And the teacher stood on a stool to beat me with the it was like a leather strap, you know. So you brought back a lot of memories, but
Well,
they're
thank
good,
you.
good
McCarthy will have
memories,
to
you know.
listen to the stories again because he's disappeared off again now. It's really difficult to get the connectivity. Well, I just want to thank you all very much indeed. Thanks, David, for joining us again. And you do sound.
Sorry, can I say I couldn't find the unmute button to say thank you for those comments about the Mona book. That's fine. Thank you. And we'll definitely get a signed copy to anybody that wants one, even if it means coming to Australia.
Ooh, wonderful, wonderful. I made a decision today that I'll come back next summer. Right, I'm just going to stop the recording now. So however I do that, and then we've got to say anything else. Oh dear, we have this problem. No, I think I'll just end the program altogether. Thank you very much indeed. I look forward to seeing you next week when we'll be wrapping up season 6, and then we'll be moving on to do our first project, Black History Conversations project.
So what will we be actually doing next week then? When you say wrapping up, what will we
That's a
be
very
doing?
good question. If I could remember, I'd tell you.
Okay, never mind. You
Several
send it
people
out
have.
to us.
I'll let
Yeah.
you know.
It's very late. Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks ever so much for your time, and we'll be in touch before next week.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks
then.
a lot then. Bye for
You
now
take
then. Bye.
care. Bye. Bye.